So this is an argument that I will be having until the day of my death, and I'm happy to argue it because as a historian, it just frustrates me so much that about 87% of millennials believe that Jesus was a real person, and 92% of people believe that Jesus was a real person who existed in the United States. But when it comes to more liberal countries, so in England, about 22% don't believe that Jesus was even a real person. Now, I'm not trying to argue that he's God. I'm not trying to argue any of those Christian things that he said. However, it just frustrates me to no end that people will fight tooth and nail that Jesus wasn't a real person when there are no respected historians alive that believe Jesus wasn't real. And why is this? Well, there's a lot of reasons, but I'm going to give you my main two. And the main two that they use as well. Because I do have a history degree, and we did learn about this. I did take a couple different college classes about that time period. And so there are no people in antiquity that argued that Jesus wasn't a real person. They said that he was a liar. They said that he led a lot of people astray, plenty of other things. But nobody argued that he wasn't a real person. That's really important, obviously. The other is that there are dozens of sources. There's about 30 sources that, independent of each other, that talk about the reality of a person named Jesus Christ, Jesus, who lived, and he was given the title of Christ, of course. And so you can't argue away 30 different sources in antiquity. It's impossible. And so that's why virtually all historians agree, and every respected historian would agree, that Jesus was a real person who lived in that time period. And it frustrates me that 13% of millennials will say, no, Jesus wasn't real, against the data, and about 8% of the average American will say, no, that he wasn't even real, despite all the evidence we have for that. And the fact that as you get more liberal countries, for example, England, 22% of adults agree that Jesus was even a real person, despite the amount of evidence we have. 30 independent sources in that time period when almost nobody was able to write is astronomical. We have no other person in antiquity that is well documented as having existed as Jesus Christ of Nazareth. And so, like I said, I'm going to argue this until the day of my death, but I'm going to keep making the argument, because if all the professional historians alive agree on one thing, shouldn't you believe it too? I mean, that's their job.